Hi, welcome to an overview of how the CDA portfolio is put together. This is a mock portfolio that I've completed, and it is in a 1-inch binder. So we're going to start with the My CDA Professional Portfolio page that can be found in your Competency Standards book. This is the checklist that's going to show you the tabs and where all of the components of your portfolio are going to fall under those tabs. And you can check these off as you complete them and put them into your portfolio. Once you have the whole list checked, you can then sign and date it. So leading into tab A here, we have the summary of My CDA education. Once again, you're going to put your name, and then when you get your transcript, you're going to look at that transcript and make sure that you have at least 10 hours in each of these 8 subject areas. And you'll just initial in this column and then sign and date at the bottom. Now, I've just tucked a sample of our South Dakota CDA transcript in here. Whatever transcript you have from the program that you are using, you'll want to make sure include that under tab A as well. Moving on to tab B, we have the family questionnaire section. So this is also a page that's in your competency standard book, and you are going to make copies of that and send that out to your families, and they will use these little rating systems here and score it and send it back to you. They can do this anonymously, so they can either put their name or it's optional to not put their name. The PDS will not be reviewing these scores. They will just be counting to make sure that the number that you collected matches the number that you put here over on the summary sheet. Also, with those family questionnaires, is that family questionnaire summary sheet, you'll want to put your name and your candidate ID number at the top. Now, you won't get your candidate ID number until you actually apply on your council, and then they will assign you a candidate ID number. Now, here on number 1, you're going to put the amount of family questionnaires you distributed. Number 2, you're going to put the number that you collected. And then for number 3, you're going to review those results that the parents scored. List an area of strength, or more than one if you'd like. Same with this area, so you're going to list an area for professional growth. And then if you look at number 4 here, it says that you want to take the information you put here and put it on the reflective dialogue worksheet. That sheet is also in your competency standards book, and it's going to be in tab C. So this is the reflective dialogue worksheet. You're only going to complete boxes A and B, and you're taking that from your strengths and from your area for growth, and you're putting those right in here. The rest of these boxes, as well as the back of the form, are going to be completed during your verification visit with your professional development specialist. Now, moving on to tab D, this is where the resource collections start. Resource collection 1-1 is your first aid and CPR certificate. 1-2 is your weekly menu, and 1-3 is your weekly plan. And I just want to note that if you read carefully in your competency standards book, it says to make sure that your weekly plan includes goals for children's learning, brief descriptions of planned learning experiences, accommodations for children with special needs, as well as the age group. Your first competency statement, it is to establish and maintain a safe, healthy learning environment. You want to make sure and begin that statement with a paragraph describing how your teaching practices meet this standard, and then a paragraph for each of the following corresponding letters. So competency statement 1A is going to reflect on a sample menu. 1B is going to reflect on the room environment, and then 1C is going to reflect on your weekly plan. Moving on to tab E, we have resource collection 2. This is 9 learning experiences. These are science and sensory, language and literacy, creative arts, fine motor, which is an indoor activity, gross motor, which is an outdoor activity, self-concept, emotional skills and regulation, social skills, and mathematics. Now, if you are completing an infant and toddler CDA, you need to make sure 3 of those activities are for mobile infants, 3 of those are for young infants, and 3 of those are for toddlers. That is followed with competency statement 2 to advance physical and intellectual competence. Once again, begin this with a paragraph describing how your teaching practices meet the standard, and then a paragraph related to physical development, a paragraph related to cognitive development, a paragraph related to creative development, and an additional paragraph describing ways that to promote the communication or language development among all children, including dual language learners. And these A, B, and C are going to directly relate to your activities that you wrote down in your resource collection too. Moving on to tab F, we have resource collection 3, which is a bibliography. In this bibliography, you're going to list 10 books. These subject considerations are taken from the competency standards book, so gender identity, special needs, separation, cycle of life, any topics that reflect the children and families with whom you work. You want to make sure on a bibliography to have the title, the author, the publisher, the copyright date, and a short summary of the book for each of the 10 books that you choose. Competency statement 3 is to support social and emotional development and to provide positive guidance. So you want to begin with a paragraph describing how your teaching practices meet the standard, and then CS3A, you're going to answer that. That's describing some of the ways you support the development of children's positive self-concepts and growing social emotional skills. And then 3B is reflecting on your philosophy of guiding young children's positive behaviors and also how you deal with challenging behaviors. So you're going to answer the questions that are listed in your competency statement book, competency standards book. Next, we move on to tab G. This is resource collection 4, which is a family resource guide. There are 4 components to this. You're going to look at collecting your local name and contact information for an agency that provides family counseling, translation service to include American Sign Language, resources and services for children with disabilities, and then also a list of 3 or more websites with brief descriptions of each of those websites. And you want to be sure to print off a current article for each of those websites and have that right in your portfolio. And one of those articles needs to be related to child guidance. Competency statement 4 is to establish positive and productive relationships with families. This is where you're going to begin once again with a paragraph describing how your teaching practices meet the standard. And then A, B, and C will be answered with a paragraph on each of those, reflecting on answering those questions that are in your competency standards book. Tab H is resource collection 5, which are record keeping forms. There are 3 samples of forms that you're going to need to put in here. You need a blank accident report, a blank emergency form, and often those are forms that programs already have on file that you would, like if an accident happened, you would fill it out for the accident form or report, and then the emergency form is typically something that families fill out when children enroll. And then you need to have a completed tool or form that you have used to observe for and document children's development and learning. And if you have one of those filled out, you want to make sure and black out the child's name. Competency statement 5 is to ensure a well-run, purposeful program that is responsive to participant needs. This is a short one here. You have a paragraph describing how your teaching practices meet that standard, and then just a letter A where you're going to prepare a paragraph that describes how you use the observation tool, and then you're going to answer the questions related to that in your competency standards book. Tab I is resource collection 6, and there are 3 parts to this. This is where you're looking at your state's information, your state agency that's responsible for the regulation of childcare centers and family childcare homes, and you're going to answer the information that's listed, the qualification requirement for personnel, including teachers, directors, assistants, group sizes, and adult child to child ratios. Number 2 is looking at a list of 2 or 3 early childhood associations, and you actually can find those on the cdacouncil.org website under resources. They have a tab that is early childhood associations, and you want to make sure and list the website for each, as well as the professional resources and membership opportunities for each. And then finally on that one, number 3 are the summaries of legal requirements for child abuse and neglect and mandated reporting guidelines. Competency statement 6, the last one, is to maintain a commitment to professionalism. Once again, begin with a paragraph describing how your professional practices meet this standard, and then you want to reflect and write about how or why you chose to become an early childhood professional, and then also a paragraph on what you believe are the most important indicators of professionalism that you possess. That leads us to the final tab, tab J. And this is where you're going to write your professional philosophy statement. You're going to summarize your professional beliefs and values about early childhood education, and then also, once again, answer those questions that are in your competency standards book. Now, this statement can be a maximum of 2 pages long, and then all of the other competency statements, have a maximum of 500 words. So if you're typing it with 12-point font, that's about 1 page double-spaced typed up. So just so you know, that is kind of that limitation, because a professional development specialist who comes in to observe you has 1 hour to review your entire portfolio. I hope this was helpful, and thank you for watching.